Hi everyone. Today I'm going to talk about Qwik. And Qwik has a really interesting property. Qwik can be instant regardless of the amount of complexity of an application. It doesn't mean that your application is a hello world or it's a massive application. Qwik enables instant interactivity. And we do this through a concept we call ON, or Resumability, which I'm going to talk later. Part of my job today is to convince you that Qwik can do things fundamentally in a different way that other frameworks cannot do. So my name is Manu, and I'm a software engineer at Builder. I work in the open source team, and before that, I've been building the Stencil web compiler and making SDKs and APIs for the last 12 years. At Builder, we want to look at performance in a different way. We don't want to look the typical performance test where we render 1,000 rows and see how fast it can be, but really how things scale and big for big customers. So in this demo, we kind of build the same application from one component to up to 80 in different frameworks and see how the amount of JavaScript that these frameworks have to deliver. In the right, we see this graph where all the frameworks, all the current frameworks follow this trend. As the application gets more complex, the amount of JavaScript grows linearly. But Qwik is stable. So I just want to just pay attention, just look or try to get already the feeling that Qwik is doing something fundamentally different that other frameworks cannot do to achieve this kind of performance characteristic. We look at the web, and sites are becoming more and more, they need more and more JavaScript. And this is a fact. This is data from Web Archives, and we see that the amount of JavaScript has been steadily increasing for the last 10 years. But is this really a problem? Well, we built this tool called Performance Insights, where you can put your website, and it's going to tell you 4 things. The first thing is your current performance score, like Lighthouse score. But also, if you optimize the images, what will be your score? If you optimize the CSS, which one it will be? And then for JavaScript, if you optimize the JavaScript, what will be the score? We actually ran this at scale, and for the 50 e-commerce sites bigger in the US. And one of the things you want to point out is this line over here, is that pretty much all of them are in the red area. This means that they are actually very slow. And then we see what can be done about it. If these websites optimize the images, the performance benefit is very, very small. If they optimize the CSS, very much the same thing. This means that they are already doing a good job at optimizing these particular parts. But when we look at JavaScript, the performance increase is massive. We start to see that the bottleneck is the JavaScript, is not any other thing. You might argue with me that this is not a problem for your business, and I get you. This might not be for you, but for a lot of companies, especially the ones facing customer, it is. Faster websites means more sales, means better conversion. And especially when the application gets more and more complex, it becomes a bigger problem. I'm going to argue that this is because there is a system correlation between sites becoming more interactive and the amount of JavaScript. And it will be naive to think that we can go back 10 years ago and make the websites without pretty much static websites, because the business and the users are not asking for that. The other thing I want to argue is that this is a systemic problem. It's not like some websites are faster and some are slower. All the applications that are getting more, at some point, complex are becoming slow because of the amount of JavaScript. One of our core principles at Builder and Qwik is don't blame developers for what frameworks do. And this is a very interesting concept because the whole ecosystem, the whole frontend is full of best practice. Your developers should do this. In React, you should do this in a different way. That's why it's very slow. But it's not true. Frameworks are leading developers to these bad patterns. And sometimes frameworks itself have this, they are the bottleneck. And that's what is happening, literally. The current trend is linear, is going up because the current frameworks are ON. But we can do something about it. What if the frameworks were O1? We can immediately break this correlation. So business and users can still keep building more and more amazing websites, interactive and complex, without meaning that the performance is going to get every time worse and worse. At Qwik, we solve this with fundamentally two main things, which is resumability and progressiveness. To understand that, we need to kind of get a feeling of what's the problem today. So current frameworks really started as a SPA. They started to think that the framework is going to execute in the browser, it's going to do its thing, and then user will interact. But at some point later, as an afterthought, it was like, actually, is it good to run it in the server for SEO? It's good because you send the HTML already made, so it's visually instant. But this HTML that servers send is dead. You cannot interact with it because frameworks were not thought about that. The framework executes in the server, makes the HTML. That's what is happening here. Send HTML. And at that point, the browser needs to hydrate, which means like adding the listeners, adding life to the HTML to be interactive, remake the state. That means you have to replay everything. You have to download all the components in the page and replay all the logic. And at that point is when it's interactive. Resumability is taking this concept, which doesn't make any sense, and do something like, what is logical. It's like you're watching a movie, you stop the movie, and you can just continue. You don't have to go from the beginning. So that's what is happening in Qwik. It's like a virtual machine. The application runs in the server, it's paused, it's sent to the client with all the serialized state, and the application resumes instantly and executes without having to do all this work. I love this analogy. It's from the CEO of Builder. And what's happening right now is that it's the server-side cake baking analogy. The server is making a cake. It's baking a cake, it's preparing everything. But instead of sending the cake to the user, it's actually taking a screenshot or a photo, sending the photo with instructions. And when the user gets up, it tries to bite it, but it's like, come on, it's like a picture. It's not an actual cake, right? The browser needs to go fetch the ingredients, bake the cake again, compare it with a picture and say, okay, now you can interact. Now you can eat it. And this really doesn't make sense. And in the future, more and more frameworks are solving this. We are in this state not because we don't know better. It's because this is a learning process, right? In the past, it was actually very performant, but it was problems, right? We are not going back to that. At the beginning, we have maybe you use PHP or Ruby on Rails, you render stuff, and then you will use jQuery to add interactivity. That was actually very performant, but it has this slow development, error-prone, duplicated logic. It was not good for developers. So then the existing generation was like, no, let's make it amazing. Let's make easy to website at scale in complexity. And that's what Angular, Vue, Svelte, React does. They have a unified model. You don't have to build an application in different silos. The problem is that all the server side is an afterthought. They need hydration. The application needs to run twice. And the future, which Qwik includes, or other frameworks like Marco, which is also giving a talk in this conference, follow the same ideas, not going back to jQuery. It's following the same ideas of unified model, but then solve the problem of the double rendering, which is solved with resumability. I did a lot of claims here, so I'm going to show you. And let's start with some of the principles and super simple Qwik application. So I'm going to show here, and here we see just a hello world. And if we check the HTML, it's just HTML. There is no JavaScript. This, I guess, is not impressive, but let's start to put some JavaScript here. If I put console log and say render, we will see that the console log is here, but only in the SSR means that this console log comes from the server. It happened here, it paused, and nothing executed in the client. Again, not very impressive. But let's put some events. So I'm going to put an on click, and I'm going to say, I want to put console log click. So what we see here now is that it serialized this special new attribute. And not only that, it injected this piece of JavaScript. But this piece of JavaScript is fixed. It's always less than a kilobyte. It doesn't matter that they have a million components or something happened here. A million components or just one, right? It will only render that. So let me just put it back. I don't know what happened there. So if I do that, and I interact with it, notice one very important, the click handler ran in the client, but not the SSR. This code never even ran in the client, never. And you may think that this is easy, right? And this is actually what is happening here. The optimizer is taking this code and is splitting it into small chunks. So we have this one, which is the click and the rendering. But what if I do something like const, and I put some variable, so Manuel, my name, and I put it here. Then I'm going to click, and it works. It says click Manuel, but again, it didn't execute this code. So that's weird. How is it possible? Well, the optimizer and kind of the innovation here is that Qwik can serialize closures, which is what allows us to write code like in React, but with the scalability and the resumability of Qwik. I'm not going to get into focus because we have a lot more to talk. The next thing is Microfrontends. Qwik has a very interesting property. Qwik is HTML-centric. It doesn't depend on execution of JavaScript. It doesn't depend on the state that lives in the JavaScript. That allows Qwik applications to be composable at the document level. You can have several servers generating different parts of HTML being combined into a single document, and everything works because every Qwik application is a container. It can be built by different teams, different versions of Qwik, and let's explore this. So I have this app, and I have this demo called Containers. So Containers is a demo that we built in collaboration with Cloudflare. And see all these links? They are actually independent applications. There's an application that comes from this worker, an edge worker, which is just the footer. This one is the body, and I believe this is the header, right? So all these applications are interactive by themselves. But at the same time, if we look at the code, we can put them all together in a single application, and it looks like this. All these applications are being combined at the document level. And the thing that this works is that all these containers live here. Actually, they can be nested. You have the body container, and inside the body container, there will be this one over here, which is another container, which was compiled by this version of Qwik, but this one was compiled with a different version of Qwik. And not only that, I can interact with this container, and notice that it become resume, while the previous container, even the parent one, still paused. It didn't download any JavaScript. And I'm going to show you this. So if we open the network tab and we refresh, there is no JavaScript. I'm going to just point this out, that it even works with JavaScript disabled. So if I disable, how is this? Disable JavaScript, and I refresh, all this still works. And they are coming from different workers that you can deploy by independent teams. Let's go back. Another thing we have to do is data-driven bundling. In Qwik, you will notice as here that I don't specify how this is bundled. I don't have to write manually dynamic import. Developers don't have to change, because it's impossible for a developer at scale to know how an application is going to use, how application needs to be bundled. Instead, Qwik by default splits everything as much as it can. It makes as many entry points as possible. And I'm going to show you how we can use actually data-driven, getting real traffic information from our from the website to rebundle and re-optimize the thing. So I have we have the doc site. So I'm going to show you the docs. So in this application, I'm going to open on incognito, so it doesn't cache. And I want you to see several things. What happened here? I won't do that. Okay. So the first thing that happened here, network, is that it didn't download. Wait, not secure. Why is doing that? Okay, maybe quit here. Let's quit all this demo. Let's quit all this demo, and let's do it again, right? Because it's as usual, the freaking demos is a pain. So confusing. Dogs. Wait, not now. I will tell you when. Okay, something is up. Let me try to fix it. Okay, now let me go back. So another very interesting thing that we can do at Qwik is data-driven bundling. You will notice from the code here that developers don't specify how applications are bundled. They don't have to manually write dynamic import and make the bundles, because this is really a very hard problem to solve, especially when the application gets very, very complex. Instead, what we think is that this bundling and this prefetching should be driven by traffic for data-driven bundling. That means using real traffic information to rebundle the application and doing this optimization at a different layer. So I'm going to show you this demo. We have the doc site, and in the doc site, I'm going to open incognito and put it here. I'm going to open the DevTools first, and I'm going to pay attention to something that happens here. In the DevTools, you will see that there is some downloading in JavaScript, but this is a prefetching. Notice that the code is being downloaded by the service worker. Why we are doing this? Well, we are doing this because we want to have instant scalability. Qwik can detect when this code is needed, so when we interact with it, the code was already cached by the server. But let's find a case where the performance was not very good. So I'm going to clean this, and I'm going to interact with the search. Notice that it had to download still a lot of code, and this interaction requires so many little chunks. And after running testing, we found out that we don't have to do that. So in Qwik, you will see that all the little symbols come with this hash. So at Builder, we collect this information and we generated this. It's going to be automated, but for now, for the demo purposes, it's just automatic. So what we are doing here, I'm going to stop it and rebundle it. We are saying, look, these symbols, they actually belong to Argolia. This should be all together. So let's see how this looks like. I'm going to close this. Let's see when it's ready. I think it's ready already. It's always a mess. Okay, so now when I interact with it, it only downloaded 3 files, and all these 3 files were already precached. So you will have instant interactivity. Notice here that you didn't have to change a single line of JavaScript. The project is still the same. It's something like even like a different team can do. So it's very, very cool at scale. Some of the other thing I want to show is that Qwik can do, it's not a goal, but Qwik can load React. Some of the principles and like primitives that Qwik can allow Qwik to partially hydrate Qwik. So in this demo, we have, let me show you the code. Qwik, no, it's not here. Qwik City, Qwik React. We have a 3JS, which is a 3D library using React. And you have a canvas, we have some stuff, some boxes, and we also have a MUI, which is the most popular React component library for React, having at the bottom here. And pay attention to this. We have this Qwikify util that converts this React component to a Qwik component. But the thing is that by converting it to a Qwik component, this code will never run in the browser. So I'm going to show you this. It's very interesting. So you just refresh, and there is no JavaScript being downloaded. So let's scroll, and see what happens here. We have 3JS, and nothing really happens here. Why? Because 3JS actually needs to run, right? You have a web component library, a 3JS library that using WebGL, so you actually need to hydrate. So by doing this, now when we interact here, I'm going to, we need to also enable JavaScript because we disabled before. That's why it was not working. So let's go here. Let's put network, and still no JavaScript. But as we scroll, React works, and you can interact with it. Again, you can decide if you don't put client visible, then this component will be always dead, and it will be here a canvas that never works. The frameworks, all one frameworks are not new. Like this is actually an idea that's been around for years, especially in Google. It's been for 8 years an internal framework called Qwik, and it powers the most complex projects at Google that require to be extremely fast. We're talking about Google Search, Gmail, Google Photos. The problem is that to build with it is a pain. You have a deeply coupled backend in Java. Business logic needs to be duplicated. It's not nice. So not even Google uses for all the projects. Because O1 frameworks still are really hard to build. Qwik solves that. Amazon the same. Amazon claimed many times that they cannot use existing frameworks to make the front page. And that's kind of what we are trying to build Qwik. We're trying to solve this. We're trying to bring these innovations that these companies, these extremely big companies, use for extremely big projects to everyone. This is an analogy from the backend cap theorem, and I don't need to explain it, but basically the idea is that when you make a website, you want three things. You want capabilities, you want a lot of functionality, tons of interactivity, user customization, A/B testing, a lot of things that a business or application needs. But you also want to be fast because that actually leads to sales, better UX. And not only that, you want your developers happy. You want to be able to build quickly, iterate. And the idea that in real businesses, I'm insisting a lot of this because we build software for real businesses. Websites are not only owned by developers, they are also owned by marketing, by designers that make to make change. So this is part of this. Right now, you cannot have all of them. If you choose performance and capabilities, you will be neglecting the nice to build API. So you will have something like with jQuery plus a very custom stack. That's what Amazon does. If you want API plus performance, then you will lose the capabilities. You will have something like MPAs, Astro, 11T. And if you want API, that means like nice to build, easy to build, and capabilities, you will have Next.js, Vue, Angular, but you will destroy the performance and scale. What we solve at Builder is how we can have all these things, because real businesses cannot only care about performance. So our current stack is Builder is this tool that companies can use to integrate with their system stack. That means like React application, React components, and allow all hands development. Not only that, but integrate extremely efficient A/B testing, user personalizations. That means that I want to show different contents for people in different regions, or if they are male or female. And then Qwik is our solution for first-party code. It's how you put all this complexity in application and still keep it fast. And in the third place, you have PartyTown, which is also real business. They need third-party skills. They need Google Analytics. They need like metrics, full story, all these things that slow down your website. So PartyTown is our solution to put it in a web worker, but being still able to run transparently. And for us, that's kind of the whole vision, like how all these three projects work together to achieve and solve a problem that previously was unsolved. So thank you very much. And please, I'm available at Manu Corporate Twitter. So please follow me and ask me questions, whatever you want, or having a beer. Have a good time. Ciao, ciao.